listening to Reignite, a podcast where two friends explore social justice in space. I am MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And this week, we talk about the Artemis Tau Cluster.
I worry for your evil giggle.
There's nothing evil that goes on in this section.
Not at all. So we're fresh off of leaving the Citadel and getting our fresh brand spanking new Spectre status, which we've chosen to use by assembling a team of badasses and killing Saren.
We didn't really assemble a team so much as they all kind of fell into our ship and we flew away.
Yeah, it's really funny, like, talking about how we meddled in people's lives and then they became friends.
That's basically what happens. You kind of poke your nose in and say, "Hey, what's going on? You wanna go for a ride? I got this ship."
Well, actually, at the time, you didn't know you had the ship.
That's true. You didn't know that you had the ship. But it was more... Actually, they kind of forced themselves on you.
Yeah, that's
Garrus,
true.
Rex, and Tali are all like, "We're coming with you." And I'm like, "Why?" Well, two of you I understand why, but you why?
Yeah.
Rex why? Rex I don't understand.
Because he's afraid he won't find enough people to kill if he doesn't go out with somebody else.
That's not true. Anyway, let's get to this week's episode. Let's do a quick recap at the top. During this section, we went to the Artemis Tau cluster in hopes to find Matriarch Benezia's daughter, Liara Tassoni. We get the ability to travel from system to system. So we take some time to talk to the people around our ship, head up to the galaxy map, pick a place, and start looking. You can do all sorts of things, such as check out a distress beacon or clear out a stronghold of pirates. Why can't I speak today?
It's okay.
And then, once you do all that, you can finally meet the final member of your party on Therum. Now you're caught up, and now we go.
So, what's interesting about the space exploration of this game is I kind of forgot how guideless part of it is. Like, the fact that they give you the cluster, but not the planet. And so you have to jump into each little system and check each planet. In some planets you can get credits, you can get quest info, you can answer a fake distress beacon and almost get eaten by a giant worm. Like, and I found it frustrating because I just wanted to get to the next part. I didn't want to do all the little space missions because I recall them being a little tedious. And also, as my character, I'm like, I just want to find this woman and figure out what's going on. Or this person, because I didn't know it's a woman at the time. Like, or do they refer to Liara as she?
I think so.
Oh, they may. But either way, I was like, I'm in a hurry. I want to find this person. No, I don't want to find a fake beacon. No, I don't want to explore this planet. I just want to get there. And I had to search.
Well, before we dig in too hard on the galaxy map and space travel in general, let's bring it a little closer to home to the Normandy.
That's true, yes.
Because we do have this exploration time before we continue on to our next mission.
That's true. We do get to wander around the Normandy and talk to different team members, except for Caden and Ashley, because their story progression through conversation has gone as far as it can. And when you try and ask them personal questions, they go, maybe now's not the time.
Right.
Which is the game's way of saying, come back later.
Right. So the first person I spoke to was Joker.
Same.
Because he's right there.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you finish your big rousing speech, Joker's sitting right there, and you can take a moment to get to know him a little bit. And the very first thing that happens when you say, "I'm just trying to get to know you," he jumps down your throat and starts saying how he's the best pilot and it really doesn't matter how he's disabled and his brittle bone syndrome should not have any effect on his service record. And I don't know how you played it, but my Shepard turned around and said, I did not know you were sick. Are you okay?
Yeah, I played it the same way because I played it the way Shepard is at that moment. You can say, you can take a more, I know that, who cares route, but I played it the same way I felt as a player at that moment and kind of went, I'm sorry, what?
I didn't know. I didn't want to upset you.
But then you can ask him details about it, and then and he says he can do anything in the galaxy, but just don't ask him to dance unless you like the sounds of bones cracking, which is like key Joker dark humor.
Yeah, I love Joker because he does not bullshit.
No.
He is sarcastic. He is blunt, and he will always tell you what's on his mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Seth Green's performance as Joker. I think he did a great job. I met him briefly years ago, and I was wearing a Ninja Turtle shirt and a Mass Effect hat on purpose, and he just looked and went, nice.
For viewers at home, I have ticked off a second tally mark for how often Matt talks about a celebrity that he has met.
Oh, whatever. Stop. But yeah, so I love Joker as well. I think that he besides Liara, I think has some of the biggest growth throughout the trilogy.
Yeah,
as far as him, because he's, at least in this game, much darker, kind of colder, a lot of quips and not a lot of comfort, but stuff happens in the second and third game to kind of shift that a bit.
Right. So Joker is a pilot with a disease called Rolex syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said that right. Which means that his bones are very fragile. He does not need use of his legs to fly a ship, and he climbed to the top ranks of the flight academy despite being disabled. And what I like about this is that it's not a story about, look at this person who's this disabled person who rose to the top despite the adversity that they suffered. It's not that at all. Because Joker's like, fuck my disability. I don't care. I'm the best because I'm the best.
Yeah. And that it has nothing to do with his disability, which is why I think the dialogue plays off the way it does too, because they don't want him to come off as woe is me, and he doesn't if he immediately jumps down your throat like, what do you know? What do you know? What do you hear? It's not that, kind of a thing. Like, ready to treat you the way I'm sure he's been treated for many years.
Right. I appreciate this representation of disability because it's visible without being overbearing.
Yeah.
And
it comes up later in this game and in later games.
Right.
But it's never treated as a gimmick, so to speak.
Right.
Like, there are moments in the later game, sort of. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to the later games. Yeah. So there are moments in the series where you actually get to play briefly as Joker, and so like spoilers. But yeah, like in this moment, it's I think what built my strength of relationship with Joker as a character. Like, I really like this interaction because you get to learn a lot about someone who seems like they don't typically open up.
Yeah. And Joker is someone that I wish there was more of in this game, but he's in the, what's the word that I'm looking for when I'm ahead?
I don't know.
Cabin? Not cabin.
Cockpit?
He's in the cockpit, and he doesn't leave.
Ever. He's always there. I mean, to be fair, though, when you're on the ship is flying.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. Because there are moments where he comes off the Normandy in later games, too.
Yeah, just not in this one.
Right.
So you don't really get any interaction between him and anyone else, and your interactions with him are fairly limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's no one co-piloting with him. It's Caden in the very beginning of the game, but I think that's convenience to narrative, not because he needs to be there.
Definitely. Another character that you get to interact with is Presley.
Yes.
I'm doing real good today.
I believe he's the navigator, Presley?
You know what?
I never remember his title.
Talk about Presley for 10 seconds.
I will, because this is definitely the second episode where we've referred to Presley and went, wait, what's his title again? So we mentioned Presley in the last episode, two episodes ago, when you're first aboard the Normandy, because you get to chat with him briefly about everything going on the ship, and he shares with you that he's uneasy that Nihilus is on the ship. May he rest in peace, because Nihilus is an alien, and he doesn't really like aliens. And we talked a little bit about the xenophobic nature of that whole conversation and how other characters in the series have expressed that as well. But so, MJ, what is his role on the ship?
You were right, navigation officer.
He is a navigator. Okay, I thought
officer.
So. But yeah, and so now you get to chat with him a bit more now that some more story has progressed, and kind of find out why he is the way he is.
Yeah, I found it really interesting that his attitude stems from we take care of our own.
Yeah.
And not so much like outright hatred.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
like, it's a very subtle xenophobia and racism.
yeah, it amounts to the same thing, but it's from a different perspective.
Right. So my interaction with him summed up as divided we fall.
Yeah.
He kept saying how this is a human problem, we should handle it. And I think that stems from not wanting to appear weak in front of the other races.
Right.
But my Shepard made a point that this will affect everyone. And if we don't work together, we're never going to succeed. And I think that is a really important lesson to keep going throughout the entire series, is that we have to work we have to work together in order to affect change and to save ourselves and save each other.
Yeah. And I completely agree, though I didn't speak to him in this part of the game. I just forgot. So maybe I'll be able to have that conversation next time, or I may have missed it.
No, I think you'll be able to have it the next time you talk to him.
But yeah, the conversation doesn't, I feel like, amount to very much. It doesn't really get to affect change in him that much.
No, but I think it's a start. And I think a start is really important.
I agree. And I like to believe that a conversation like that would help him to consider things differently. I think he does come around on the crew members at least, but I don't really remember, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember what happens with him because also my fiance has just finished replaying the whole series for his own project where he discusses genocide in video games. So I'll talk about that again at some point when he has more to show for it. But Presley does develop over time. Right now, he's still rooted in leftover prejudice from the first Contact War.
Yeah.
Because he was there.
Right. And yeah, he's not a young man. He's seen a lot, whereas Shepard is portrayed as more of a up-and-comer, younger soldier.
Right.
Not necessarily super young, but definitely young on the younger side.
Right. And I think something that we always forget is the Contact War was only 30 years before this event.
Right.
And
so, like Presley, Dr. Chakwas, and many other crew members on your ship lived through that.
Right.
Captain Anderson.
So that is a very much more present feeling of trying to combat everything that you learned and witnessed 30 years ago. It was only 30 years ago.
Yeah, and so those wounds are still fresh for a lot of the crew.
Yeah.
From here, you can go to talk to one of the other new recruits. I went to talk to Garrus first.
I did too.
Because we're both Garrus fanboys. Or fan unicorns, I suppose, to not gender it. So I went and talked to him. And tell me if you had a similar experience. So it's funny. I feel like I have rose-colored glasses with Garrus because I like the character so much and how he develops. But in this first interaction, he is stubborn. He's got this like vigilantism running through his veins. He wants to just be free and smash heads, and he's so immature. And I just don't remember that. I didn't remember that, but now I'm interacting with it. He essentially says, I'm so glad to be with you because now we don't have to follow the rules and we don't have to do what anybody says. We can do whatever we want. And my Shepard, at least, was kind of like, whoa,
yeah,
relax.
Same. My Shepard was like, we do the right thing, but we don't risk people's lives. You know that, right?
Yeah.
We help people.
Yeah.
And Garrus just had this moment of like, that's not really what I meant. I'm confused. I just, and he starts to have this crisis.
Yeah, and then he starts calibrating the Mako because it's the start of a long love affair with calibrating things.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I had the same interaction, and I essentially cut him off and was like, I'm watching you, we're not vigilantes. We are law enforcement that can bend some of the rules, but there are still rules to follow.
Right. I had a mostly Paragon conversation with him. With him, it is a little hard to like pick a side because when he talks to you about his experiences, you start to see like, oh, I get why you are the way you are.
Right.
So during this moment, I agree with the whole immature thing, and I'm just like, I can't wait for you to grow up. Some shit has to happen to you for you to be a viable life mate for me.
Yeah.
You need to grow up just a little bit.
Yep.
And I had to look up how old he was because this interaction made me feel like he was a young kid. But he's not. He's in his 30s.
Yeah, which for Turian, I believe the Turian life cycle is similar to human.
Yeah, I had to research it.
But I mean, then again, I know plenty of 30-year-olds who aren't mature, so there's that too. All in all, though, I really like engaging with Garrus because his voice actor is incredible, and like there's a lot of development and heart in the character portrayal. Like you said, when you go through down the branching paths, I talked to him about his life at CSEC and, you know, how everything got held up in the bureaucracy. See, I can't talk either. You start to feel for him a little bit. There are characters in CSEC in the later games that make me like CSEC again, but it's also because you kind of help. We'll get to that. But, you know, there are some NPCs in CSEC later that I really dig. But at this moment, my experience on the Citadel, I had no redeeming interactions with CSEC, so I kind of understand where Garrus is coming from, even though I had to shut that shit down fast because I won't have any, like, tantrum throwing on my ship.
Right. From Garrus, we can step across the hull. Is it the hull that we're in? No, I don't know. We can step across...
bottom belly of the ship.
The belly of the beast. We can step across to talk to Rex. There's a lot to unpack with Rex.
So Rex essentially, when you first come to him, is like, what do you want? Go away. He doesn't want to talk to you. But with a little prying, you can get him to open up a little bit. And he talks about unfair treatment of his people. And you do the great straight white person thing of going... even though you may not be, but it just feels like that kind of a moment because you go, hey, our experiences are the same. I had the same problems. And then Rex teaches you all about everything that the Krogans have gone through.
Yeah, basically Rex gives you a crash course in how to be an ally.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is you have to kind of poke at him to get more information.
Yep.
But he gets to a point where he's like so pissed at you and your blasé treatment that he gives you a history lesson that makes you feel like shit, which you kind of deserve to feel.
Yep.
Because when you kind of pick the Paragon options here, no matter how you shake it out, you basically say to him, like, oh, the humans went through the same thing as you, Krogan, where the Krogan were infected with a genetic mutation that prevents them from having children and controls their population, like animals.
Yeah.
And, like, humans did not do that.
Yeah.
That did not happen to humans at all. Humans went to war with the Turians, then they eventually found their way onto the Citadel. There is no Krogan embassy on the Citadel.
Yep.
So, Shepard can fuck off.
Yeah, and Rex essentially says that you don't, and you can either take the Renegade response of pretty much saying, no, I don't see any difference. We're still pretty much the same. I don't know what you're going on about. Or the Paragon response, which... me and I'm assuming MJ did as well, of more or less going, oops,
yeah,
my bad.
Like, basically, they're not as similar as I thought they were.
Right.
I'm the worst. Okay, bye.
Yeah, you pretty much walk away with your tail between your legs, realizing you put your foot, probably your whole leg in your mouth at that point.
Yeah, which is really impressive. Talk about reach and flexibility.
And it's one of the early moments that remind me why Rex is one of my favorite characters, because in the early moments on the Citadel, he's portrayed as a lummox, as a brute who is just out for blood, and there's no intelligence there at all. And this first interaction proves that's not the case at all. Yeah. For as much that Krogans are natural-born warriors, they are still very intelligent and, you know, are not as one-dimensional as someone narrow-minded might think.
Right. And another important thing to address with Rex, is that he's so devoid of hope.
Yeah.
He does not believe in the Krogan anymore. He sees his people as dying and just beyond help.
Yep.
And it's really sad because there's nothing you can say to make it better. There's literally nothing you can say.
Especially in this moment, yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing you can tell him. You can't promise him anything. You just have to recognize that this is not about you.
Right.
And step away.
And so with that, we move on from Rex to the engineering section.
I love this part because if you talk to Engineer Adams, he's like, this Quarian knows a lot of shit.
Well, it's actually not that at first. The first thing Engineer Adams goes, what's with the Quarian? She's poking around at everything. And you go, oh,
is she bothering you?
Yeah, you can say some version of, is she bothering you? Or I can have her go away. And Engineer Adams goes, no, she knows more than I do at this point already. Like, is very excited and openly welcoming of Tali, which is exciting considering what we had dealt with Presley upstairs. Yeah. It's awesome to see Engineer Adams like so excited that there's an alien on board that may already know more than him or will by the end of the week and is like just gung-ho about it.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
He's a cinnamon roll.
He is.
He's so precious and so pure. And then Tali, I love her so much.
So the cool thing about Tali in this moment is you get a sense of her age and her naivety a little bit. Even though she's not stupid by any means, you can tell that, like, she's just so excited about everything. Everything is amazing. She's essentially geeking out about your ship.
She's an idealist.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's full of ideals, full of optimism, and hope for her people. She is the opposite of Rex entirely. And she fully believes that one day they'll reclaim Rannoch, which is the planet that her people were forced off of. We find out here that the Quarian people invented the Geth, and when the Geth revealed itself to be developing into a true AI, the Quarians attacked the Geth and tried to like wipe them out to prevent any uprising. But the Geth were further along than they thought, and the Geth fought back and forced the Quarians off of their homeworld and kind of exiled them to space.
Yeah.
And it was so fascinating because Tali gives this information to you so freely, whereas with Rex you have to pry it out of him. And you don't actually get any kind of information out of Garrus about the Turian people at all.
Nope.
And, like, there's just no real way to talk about First Contact War with Garrus.
Yeah.
So I really wish we could get more of the Turian experience so that way Shepard could have this more fully rounded understanding of the other species in the galaxy and start to become a real ally to these people.
Yeah, I mean, but a big part of it also at this point in the game is that there are so many races you still don't know much about.
Right.
You know very little about the Elcor and Volus, just what you got on the Citadel. Solarians, you know next to nothing at this point, except for the few that you've interacted with on the Citadel. Like, and the one who's one of the council members. But, like, you don't really get much beyond that.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of an introduction to it. Now, that's not 100% true because a lot of this information is in the data log, which you can read through, which is on the menu screen.
Yeah, in the codex, you can find a lot of information.
But based on delivery from characters, you don't find out as much. But yeah, what I love about Tali discussing the flotilla is that she still views it with such fondness, even though it was a painful thing to be exiled.
She wasn't exiled?
Or not exiled, that they were all kicked off the planet is what I mean.
I thought you were talking about her pilgrimage. No, she's on pilgrimage.
She's on pilgrimage.
She can go back.
She can go back. But no, I meant the exile of her whole people.
Of her people, yeah.
She still speaks about the flotilla, which is essentially could be considered a floating prison in the sense that you're stuck there or you leave to go to another planet. You have no true home. She doesn't view it that way. She views essentially the flotilla as her home.
Right.
Like, she just understands that's how it is and that they will someday get their actual home planet back.
She's so young. She's in her early 20s, and she wants to do good in the world, and I respect that. And I don't think that that's a naive thing to want.
No, I think that in the world that's building around her, there's some naivety there. But I think that for the most part, yes, she's mostly an idealist who just wants to do good, which I admire. But as we'll see as we play through the game more, it's harder to continue to keep that mentality.
Right. Okay. So those were all the people that we got to talk to.
Yep, that's all of the cast and characters on the ship that you can interact with this go around. Between story moments, you can usually go back and talk to the characters again, get updates after you finish a mission, get mission reports from some of the crew, things like that.
So once you have finished exploring the Normandy again, you hit up the galaxy map, which we started to talk about before, and you can head to one of three places. You can look for Liara, you can go to Pharos, or you can go to Novaria. We chose to go after Liara because we figured complete our team.
Yep.
Which we don't necessarily know if this is a first playthrough, if that's what this will do, but it's a reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
So when I went to the galaxy map, having played it before, I wanted to avoid going straight for Liara. I wanted to poke around a bit and give myself more of a hunt. I went to a planet where I thought, this definitely isn't the planet, because I couldn't remember exactly which one. But in my head, I was like, it can't be this one. It cannot be the first one that I pick randomly. Guess what? It was. So I flew away.
Whereas for me, I hunted around 3 of the 4 systems trying to find that planet and finally found it. On the way, finding a giant worm that almost ate me. I died 5 times trying to kill it.
I didn't die once, but the whole time I was driving around and John's sitting next to me and I'm just going, ah! Shoot, shoot, shoot. Ah! Shoot, shoot, shoot. Oh my god, it's coming for me.
Yeah, the problem for me was if you stop moving at all and it comes up under you or near you, you die.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah. And I kept moving, and when it was up, I stopped, I shot, and then I moved immediately.
Yeah.
It was just run away, keep running.
See, but I was driving in circles, but apparently I must have stopped or angled a certain way that I drove into him several times.
Oh no.
But I finally killed him, got out of the ship, got my rewards, and then left.
Yeah.
And this is my first return experience to driving the Mako, which is your giant F-off tank that handles like a box of drunk ducks.
They should have called it the Mountain Goat.
Yeah, it's awful. So a huge complaint of this game, and I may have touched on this in the intro episode, and if I have not, I am going to get into it now. I loved the planet exploration. I love the space exploration style that they provided for this game. I hated the vehicle they gave us to drive. The Mako is an impossible 6 or 8 wheeled monster that's impossible to drive. And what's worse is I'm playing on the computer, so I have the arrow keys and the mouse to try and move this thing. It was just the worst.
See, it wasn't the worst this time around for me. I think because I've gotten so used to driving it. But it was an adjustment, because the last Mass Effect game I played was Andromeda, where you had the Nomad and it had very different controls. Very, 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 very different. But no weaponry. So now I'm in the Mako, which has weaponry, so I don't ever have to get out of the car. I can just shoot everything, and it's great. So that I kind of liked. I also like that there's a mountain goat quality, as I said, where I can just drive up a mountain and keep going. Just keep going straight up. Doesn't matter what the incline is. I am getting over this mountain.
Yeah, but God forbid you try and turn or stop, you'll flip right over and then flounder like a turtle on your back.
Yeah.
One of the deaths to the Thresher Maw was because I had hit a wall, flipped over. Oh no, I hit the base, because so you're fighting in this crater, and in the center there's a small research base. I drove into the research base, it flipped me over, and then I couldn't get back onto my wheels. And the Thresher Maw just came up and destroyed me. It was the worst. So, when you get to the planet that Liara is on,
I did one other thing.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I cleared out a nest of pirates.
Did you have to like get out of the Mako?
Well, yeah, because they were inside of a building.
Oh, okay.
So like I had to clear away all the pirates around it, and then I went inside, and I didn't even know why I was there, but they were attacking me, so I figured they must be bad. So I killed everyone, and I poked around, and I found out that the pirate that I had just killed was sister to an embassy diplomat on the Citadel.
So you'll turn that one in later.
Yeah, so that is apparently a mission that you could pick up at the Citadel.
Huh. I wonder if I did. I don't remember.
No, you don't pick that up yet.
Ah.
Because I think I tried to talk to the person who gives it to you, and she said, go away, I'm busy.
Ah.
And I think she gives you that mission later. So I think the next time I return to the Citadel, I can walk up to her and be like, so your sister's dead. In case you were wondering. You're welcome, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of, oh god, they're shooting at me, shoot back.
Yeah.
But
because you don't ever get to be like, wait, maybe we should talk about this.
Not in this game, at least.
No.
But yes, then after that, after the planet exploration and finding some quest items and going to various planets that you can't land on but you can read about, you go to the planet where Liara is, where her dig site is. Therum. And so when you arrive on Therum, you're in the Mako, and you drive for a little while, and then drop ships come and drop Geth everywhere.
Yep.
And you have two options at this point. You could do as MJ did and fight them all.
I was very strategic. I drove myself to the exact right point, lined up my shots, boom. Took out each one with like one shot. I was very proud of myself because normally I'm just like, what do I do?
Whereas I decided, after trying to kill one of them and not being able to aim the damn thing, I went, I can just drive through them. Because there are giant Geth walkers that are pain in the butt to fight on foot, but in your tank, you can drive into them and they just flop ragdoll style over onto the ground.
Yeah.
And so I ran through them. I ran through the foot soldiers who die pretty much immediately, but I died a lot here. So here's the thing about Mass Effect 1. The autosave feature is not great.
It's terrible.
So you have to save frequently on your own. However, you can never save while you're in combat.
Yeah.
And so, the first time I got to this planet, I drove through the first group of Geth, the second group of Geth, the third group of Geth, and then on the fourth group, you come out of a tunnel near the lava and you have to make a slight sharp turn to continue on the path. Mm-hmm. However, like I said, box of drunk ducks, my tank tipped, just barely touching the lava. Game over.
Mission failure.
Gotta go back to the beginning and do it all again.
Oh, that sucks so much. My first death on this planet was, there's this section where whoever's in the car with you says, trying the front door is dangerous, maybe a side window.
Yeah.
And there's a little pathway that you can hit, and there's only one turret as opposed to 4, so you can get through much easier. I, cleared out this entire base. And then I thought, I could get more experience if I, hide over here and shoot out those turrets from the front. And, I'll get more experience that way. And then I died. And then I got shot by the turret, even though I thought I was safe in hiding, and I died. And I forgot to save. So I had to do a very large section all over again. But that was a good reminder to me to save as frequently as possible.
Yes. And so then, after a few more deaths, trying to get to the dig site where Liara is at, you eventually get to this section where you have to get out of the Mako, and you have to fight a Geth walker and some Geth foot soldiers.
This was the section where the very first time that I played it, I almost put it down and never walked it. I walked away. I almost just never wanted to play it again because I kept dying, and the autosave was so bad that I had to do such a large portion of it again. Yeah. Even with me saving as much as I could. This was the section that almost did me in the first time.
Yeah, this time around also was tough on me because, again, I'm refamiliarizing myself with controls that I'm already not familiar with because it's on the PC.
Right.
And so it's mouse and keyboard. And there are what I call leapfrog Geth. There are these Geth footmen that jump from wall to wall and shoot at you. And they leap around essentially like large frogs, and they move very quick. And since I'm a shotgun pistol user, speed is not key for me. And so I had trouble killing them. But once I finally got everything dead, you could face off against this Geth walker one-on-one. And the good thing is, even though it shoots this giant death blast, if you're behind a tiny box, for whatever reason, it doesn't blow up and kill you.
Yeah, you're still okay.
And so I picked him off slowly and then finally killed everyone. Caden said the coast is clear, and I saved my game.
Yeah, I managed to get through that fight without dying for the first time ever.
It's a rough fight, because there's a lot going on when you land.
There's just a lot of Geth when you get there. And what are they called? stalkers. They're called stalkers. When the stalkers are jumping around, it doesn't matter where you're hiding because they'll come around you.
Yeah.
And if you're focused on this over here, you can't see the stalker that's to your left, and you will get attacked by him while you're trying to hit this other Geth who's on your right.
Yep.
And it's so much happening at once, and it's sensory overload.
Also, it's one of the first fights where you realize how useless your computer players are.
Yeah.
I had Garrus and Caden with me, with high combat experience, and they pretty much fell over in seconds because they stood in the way of the giant mech.
They stayed alive for me.
Lucky
Garrus
you.
and Tally stayed alive, and I was just like, well, how the turntables.
But after you finish this fight, you get to go into the mine where you suspect Liara is, and as we said, you find her. She's trapped. You save her and trying to escape. What's interesting about this fight, after you free her and then fight Krogan, Bounty Hunter, and a bunch of Geth, so I remember that fight being really difficult, and it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I blew through it, and then after that, you escape.
I want to slow you down a little bit because you're kind of jumping. So when you enter this dig site, you see that there's this kind of blue barrier happening, and Liara is trapped inside of a Prothean security bubble. And what kind of bothers me about this is she is a very stereotypical damsel in distress.
Yes, she
like,
is.
She is spread eagle, like tits out, just completely, save me, Shepard. But she doesn't know who you are. But it's just, it bothered me because she's also a teenager. She's 108 years old as an Asari, but to an Asari, that is an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
That is a kid. That is someone that is very young and doesn't, like, really know much about the world. And it bothers me how she is set up to be objectified right from the start.
Yeah, and it doesn't really let up from there. Even after you free her and you get everyone safe and sound back to the Normandy, when you're having, like, a circle up after the mission to debrief, she is very, like, fragile damsel in distress and, like, even almost faints at one point, like the whole hand up to the forehead thing. It's just for a character that I know later in the game becomes pretty badass for a number of reasons. It's just so sad to see this start because I didn't remember this at all being like this. I remembered the her being suspended in the Prothean chamber, but I guess I didn't quite remember it being so damsel in distressy until this playthrough.
Right, and also, we're much older than we were when we first played it. And at the time you first played it, you were about 24, 25, right?
Probably. I don't know. I can't do math.
Right. So, Liara, as a very young woman, probably didn't bother you as much then.
Right.
Because you were also a very young man. You were much closer to her in age.
Yeah.
And now, I'm turning 30 this year, and you're 35.
I'll be 35.
I'll be 35. Excuse me.
Well, by the time this airs, I'll probably already be 35. Anyway.
And to both of us, that kind of inexperience is not relatable or appealing.
Right.
So that kind of has a jarring moment of like, oh, that's right, you're a baby. I forgot.
Yeah. And also that whole mission, like, you're essentially guiding her by the hand until she becomes a party member after you complete this section.
Right.
And like I don't know, like, so she's a capable biotic. She can handle a weapon.
She's a brilliant historian.
And so why couldn't she fight in that battle against the Krogan and the Geth?
Shock.
Maybe. But like she seemed pretty with it, expounding, story after story about the Protheans once you get her on the ship. Like, I don't know.
I think in that moment, you had just freed her from the security bubble. You approached her about her mother, Matriarch Benezia, and she is having this moment of, this place is coming down, I'm under attack, I don't know who you are, you're telling me some random shit about my mom.
That's true. It could be a lot of shock. I wanted her to be more powerful or stronger in that moment than she was.
I think that's asking a lot of her because she is so young.
That's fair.
I would have liked it to be less of an objectifying moment.
Yeah.
I would have liked her to have a little more agency, but I can understand her being young and immature. Not immature necessarily, but inexperienced.
Yeah.
And I can understand that, but she's a brilliant scientist and historian, and how do you study Prothean technology your entire life and accidentally hit a security bubble that traps you?
And also think about how long she'd been there without food or water. Imagine if you'd never showed up. Like, it's just, yeah.
It's a lot to think about. I want to like Liara. I think I picked up on this inexperience the first time I played, which is why I was very hesitant with her.
Yeah.
But
I think you're right. I think I saw her differently when I was younger than I do now. Because honestly, of all the characters, the one most relatable so far, surprising me quite a bit actually, is Kaden.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually, and Garrus, because I'll always love Garrus, but like, Kaden is one of the characters that I find myself wanting to work with more.
So, I mentioned this earlier before we started recording, but I think we owe both Kaden and Ashley an apology.
We are.
Definitely Kaden. I think we started this off like, fuck those guys.
Right.
And I think that's really unfair. Because now that I'm playing through it, I'm paying more attention. I have really turned around on Kaden.
Mm-hmm.
He is soft and full of emotions, and that's not a disparaging remark.
Right.
He is soft, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
I think that disliking Kaden embodies some kind of toxic masculinity because he wears his feelings. He is a very emotional person, and I called him wishy-washy before, and I don't think that was fair of me. I think that I was holding on to some just preconceived notion, and now he is much more appealing as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about as a partner, but
Right.
definitely as a person.
Yeah.
With Ashley, I am still hesitant with her based on my experience, but I think because of that very strong instinct of I don't want to work with a racist, she got the legs cut out from under her and never got the opportunity to grow and become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that we should give racists a chance, because
No.
that's not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I'm trying to make is it is unfair to jump on this fictional character for not being perfect right out the gate.
Right.
And I think that she proves herself to be a friend to Shepard down the line, but it's so easy to forget that.
Right.
And I think that she doesn't get a chance to grow, and that's why so many people are down on her. And I've read some discourse about her. Some people love her.
Yeah.
Because she's a big sister, and she is a good friend. And I don't really know much about the Ashley Shepard romance, but there are some people who just adore it. And I'm personally going to try harder to give her the benefit of the doubt until it is clear to me that I can't.
Right.
Or that I should.
Yeah. I agree for the most part across the board. I'd say that for me with Kaden, I just didn't remember enough about his character. I think as I explore more of it, I am finding that I'm understanding a lot more. I can't remember if my first male Shep playthrough, I made a decision on Kaden or Ashley. You'll know what that means later. But, you have to choose between them at some point. And I feel like I never chose him, but I don't really remember now. And so I'm just trying to engage with them in a way. It reminds me of the game Final Fantasy VII and the fact that, spoiler alert, Eris dies in it. Sephiroth kills her. It's a game that's very old. You should have played it already. 90s it came out in. God, it's a while ago. Anyway, and so whenever I would go back and play Final Fantasy VII after that, it's a turn-based RPG. I would never use her. I wouldn't level her up. I wouldn't bother using the character because I knew halfway through the game I was going to lose her and never get her back. But that's metagaming, and I shouldn't be doing that. I should be using the character, and I think part of my experience with Ashley and Caden, not that I'm saying they die, I'm saying that because I know how the experience plays out with them and the kind of people they are, I made premature choices to not engage, and I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I think we both owe it to them to give them more. Just more.
Yep. I can't make a promise that I will always take them into battle, but I will try and engage with them at least.
Yeah, at the very least. The least we can do is talk to both of them and learn more about who they are as people.
Yep.
I remember that Ashley loves Tennyson, I think.
I know that Ashley talks about having a younger sister, I believe.
I think she has a couple of younger sisters.
Yeah, and that like she's part of a military family, as I recall. Her father, her mother, I think were both in the SARS.
Her father was in the First Contact War, and he surrendered during a battle, which is why she has such a chip on her shoulder.
Which I believe comes out a little later in the game. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet.
She does tell you.
She mentions
She does tell you about it a little bit.
She goes deeper into it if you talk to her more. But yeah, and so after we free Liara, fight the good fight, and get her back to the ship, you have a debriefing where essentially Liara explains what she's been working on. You tell Liara about your experience with the Prothean beacon, and then she's tired and you insist she gets checked out by the doctor, and the team is dismissed.
And then you talk to the council,
who are still fairly dismissive of you, think very little. The Turian council member immediately thinks that Liara is untrustworthy.
Yeah. They think that she might be untrustworthy, and then they dig in on you for the Prothean site collapsing. And you're just like, I had nothing to do with that. I had literally nothing to do with that. I rescued a person, and then I got attacked by a mean Krogan. Like, get off my case.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, people blaming Shepard for things that are beyond his control.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so this is the first in a long chain of events of interacting with the council and them treating you like stupid human.
I hate them. I hate them so much.
I do too, but I also kind of understand because you have to look at it from the perspective of they've been around a lot longer.
They have.
And you look like a brash 5-year-old.
My problem with them is you offer them testimony and evidence, and they are just so reluctant to
pretty much trust anything. Yeah. But then from here, this is where we stopped. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we'll be doing next?
Well, yeah, okay. We actually didn't decide what we're going to do next.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You have 2 choices.
I forgot that we didn't decide. So our options are go to Noveria to confront Liara's mother, Matriarch Benezia, or go to Pharos, where there's some strange activity going on. That was one of the things recommended to us. So do we want to go straight for Matriarch Benezia now that we have Liara, or do we want to investigate Pharos?
Do you have a preference?
I don't really. I'm fine doing either one. Noveria is cold. Pharos has a lot of geth. I know that.
It's been a while since I've played, but I think we should go after Matriarch Benezia next.
Yeah, okay. So next episode, we're going to basically scour Noveria, do everything we can possibly do on that planet, and then once we conclude, return to the Normandy, then we'll stop.
Yep. And that includes everything on Noveria. We know that Matriarch Benezia is rumored to be there, but beyond that, we know there are other things going on, but no details.
Right. So before we start wrapping up, I wanted to do something new.
Okay.
I want to do something called Fandom Corner, where we talk about something interesting that has happened in the fandom. I know that this is a very old fandom. It's kind of dead on the surface, but there's still a lot of posts happening.
Yeah.
I live on Tumblr,
yes, you do.
So I see something new every single day, and it's fantastic for me. It's the fandom that will never die.
Yeah, for the record, if you're interacting with the Reignite social media, odds are 90% of the time it's MJ.
90%? You want to revise that number?
Hey, I make sure that like our Twitter posts about the show go up. Like the thing that we're doing. Fine, 95%.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, on Fandom Corner, this episode, I want to address a fan theory that came across my dash. Matt can't super speak to this.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to read the post.
Okay.
So, BioWare Black Hole posted, Dragon Age, Mass Effect fan theory. So, you haven't played Dragon Age. So, this speaks to
I
me.
have played it, I just didn't like it.
Okay, I thought you hadn't played it.
No,
in full.
I have played it.
Okay, so I'm reading this mostly verbatim.
Okay.
This has probably already been discussed, but it's known that they're in the same universe. There's a post showing Thetis on the galactic map in Mass Effect 3, a Krogan head mounted in the Winter Palace, and an ogre seen in a Mass Effect game. My theory is, we all know that people in Thetis can possess magic, but need lyrium to help keep their mana and increase their magic skill, blah blah. In Mass Effect, you have biotics that were exposed to this element 0 and can perform magic-like abilities. What if it's the same thing? So the concept is, lyrium is just raw Ezo, and the people of Thetis have evolved in such a way that they can use Ezo to do different types of magic, or biotics in a way.
So essentially they're saying that Dragon Age isn't a different time, it's a planet.
Yes.
Interesting. I mean, there's literally nothing saying it can't be.
Right, and I'm really excited about this prospect. I love when there's this kind of crossover, and it just makes me really excited, and it makes me want to know where the planet is. Just so I can, like, hover around it and be like, there it is! That's where all the magic shit happens!
That's really funny.
I think that's a great theory.
I do, too.
BioWare Black Hole is on Tumblr. They're hella cool. I would give them a shout for follow, so do that. But yeah, I love thinking about shit like that. If you have a fan theory that you want to send to us, send it to me on Tumblr, ReignitePod, on Gmail, reignitepod@gmail.com, Twitter, also @reignitepod. We made it so easy for you.
Yeah, please interact with us. Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves.
Please. I need more friends. I need to yell about Mass Effect to more people.
But yeah, well, that's actually really cool. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Next time, I'll tell you about the great fan fiction that I read.
Oh, here we go.
I'm so excited about it.
I'm sure you are. So again, just to state, we're going after Matriarch Benezia next. Please join us if you're not yet playing along. Shout out to all those who have been interacting with us on social media. We appreciate it. A big thank you, of course, to our badass graphic designer who made our logo.
My dear friend, David Boyle.
Thank you, David, for making our logo. Also, big news if you've not seen it on our site, as of when we are recording, we have just joined the Certain Point of View Network. Along with a ton of really great and awesome podcasts that cover a whole different range of geekery, from Star Wars to video games to movies. So thank you to everyone at Certain Point of View Media. We're happy to be a part of that family. Thank you specifically to Case Aiken, who's been creating the graphics for our presence on the website itself. You can go to certainpov.com to check out our podcast and all the others. And of course, I want to thank Dan Bull, whether he knows it or not. His song is our theme for the start of this show.
Hi, Dan. We love you. Please don't sue us.
I really dig this song, and I'm hoping to I've been trying to get in touch with him, but I really hope that if he finds out that he enjoys it, because I love using this theme. I think it's a great song. Go check out his stuff. All of his music is available on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere. Bandcamp, I think, too. Go buy his stuff. He makes great video game songs. Am I forgetting anything?
Probably. I'm sure someone will yell at us about it.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening. The response we've gotten already from a lot of you has been great, and we really dig the fact that you're enjoying this because we love doing it.
Someone messaged me to say that they enjoyed it, and I cried.
Like, literally cried.
I cried. I'm very emotional.
Like Caden, you are soft.
I am soft.
You are so soft and small.
I'm very soft and small.
So, thank you for listening, as always. I think that we're going to keep our sign-off from the early episodes, even though we did a different one last time, because apparently some of the fans really dig it. Listeners, not fans, listeners. Fans sounds way too pretentious. Sorry, I had a moment there, and I shared it with all of you. So, I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
I'm MJ.
And this is our favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Have a great day. Bye.